So for today's class, we will be starting off just laying back on our mats. You can keep your feet flat on the floor here to support your lower back if you would like, or you can have the legs long, whatever you prefer. Fluttering the eyes closed here, taking a few moments to bring your attention to the breath, to help center yourselves down to this present moment. Noticing how you are naturally inhaling and exhaling. And taking this time to maybe lengthen out that breath by holding for a few seconds at the tops of your inhales before exhaling it out, and likewise holding for a few seconds at the bottoms of your exhales. You can also take this time to scan over the body, taking note of how it is feeling today. Are there any spots that are sore, anything that is stiff or tight? Just taking notice of these for later on during today's practice. Finally, as we center ourselves, I invite you to set an intention for today's practice. Today, my intention will be that of strength. Feel free to use my intention, or you can set one of your own. Just a word or a phrase that you can focus on as we flow today. Maybe something that you can take with you after we complete today's practice. Go ahead and take one more inhale here. And on your exhale, you can go ahead and flutter those eyes open. On your inhale, go ahead and bring the knees up toward the chest here, giving yourself a nice big hug, maybe rocking side to side to massage out that lower back. On your next inhale, go ahead and drop the right leg down to the mat, extending it long, keeping the left knee hugged in toward the chest. And on our exhale, we are twisting that left knee toward the right side of the body here, making sure to keep both shoulder blades nice and square down on the mat. Maybe your arms extend out to a T so that gaze is at that left hand. Or if you don't have quite as much space, feel free to take them to 90 degrees cactus arms. Just feeling a gentle opening up of that lower back as we twist. Making sure that we're not cranking through that spine or anything here. On your next inhale, go ahead and untwist. Exhale, hugging both knees in toward the chest once again. And likewise, on your next inhale, go ahead and extend the left leg long this time, keeping that right knee hugged in toward the chest. And on our exhale, we are pulling that right knee toward the left side of the body this time for a spinal twist, supine twist. Once again, maybe bringing those arms out to a T. The gaze comes to the right hand. Once again, making sure that both shoulder blades are nice and square down on the mat here. That right knee does not have to touch the ground next to you. Especially now as we're just warming up the body. You may still be feeling a little bit stiff. On your next inhale, go ahead and untwist yourself. Exhale, hugging those knees in toward the chest one last time. And from here on an inhale, we're just going to go ahead and rock ourselves up, coming into a seated position, maybe rocking back and forth a couple of times if that feels good for you. I'll go ahead and turn towards you. On your inhale, go ahead and bring those hands overhead, gazes up between the palms. Exhale, we're leaning toward the right side here, extending that left hand overhead. Gaze comes up to that left hand for a side body stretch here. Feeling a nice stretch through the left hip, maybe those obliques, maybe in the left shoulder. On your next inhale, go ahead and bring those hands back to the middle. Exhale, we're taking that side body stretch on the opposite side. Gaze comes up to that right hand, taking extra care here to really stretch out the shoulder, especially today's flow is a little bit more upper body based, focusing in on strengthening the arms as well as our abdominal muscles. Go ahead and inhale, returning to the middle. Exhale, the palms come together over heart center. That's in front of our chest. From here, we're just going to transition to a tabletop position. So we're stacking our wrists underneath of our shoulders, our knees underneath of our hip bones. And from here, we're going to go ahead and take it to some cat-cows. So on an inhale, We drop that stomach down to the floor, gaze comes up to the ceiling, pushing through the palms of our hands here. On our exhale, rolling through that spine, pulling shoulder blades apart at the top. The gaze comes to the belly button or the tops of the thighs. Inhale, go ahead and drop that stomach down, bending through the back, gaze comes up to the ceiling. Exhale, once again, rolling through that spine, gaze comes to the tops of the thighs, maybe feeling an invisible string, pulling that mid back upwards. Before we inhale, dropping once again through that belly. Last time, exhale for cat, rolling through that spine here. Go ahead and inhale, actually dropping that stomach one last time for cow. And exhale, returning to a neutral tabletop position here. Once again, stacking those hands underneath of the shoulders, the knees underneath of the hip bones. From here, we will be taking it to some spinal extensions, so beginning to warm up those core muscles, those abdominals, maybe somewhat in those obliques as well. On our inhale, we're extending the right hand out in front of us, gazes past those fingertips. Exhale, go ahead and lift up that left leg, straightening out the leg behind us, keeping the foot flexed here. We want a nice straight line from the heel of the foot through the fingers. Go ahead and inhale here once again. Exhale, we're crunching inwards, engaging through those lower abdominals, pulling the knee toward the elbow, the gaze comes down to the mat. Inhale, go ahead and extend it outward, stabilizing ourselves here. Exhale, go ahead and crunch it in. Elbow comes toward knee, it doesn't necessarily have to get there. Inhale, extending it out once again. Exhale, crunching downward and in. Inhale to extend for our last time on this side, and exhale, returning to our tabletop position. Great job. Taking that on the other side whenever you are ready. On our inhale, we are extending the left hand out in front of us, gaze is past those fingertips. Exhale, lifting up the right leg this time to the opposite side of the body here, keeping that foot nice and flexed behind us, making a nice straight line from the heel of the foot through the fingers in front of us. Inhaling one last time. On our exhale, once again, crunching through those lower abdominals, we pull the elbow down toward the knee, hovering here, gazes down at the mat. Inhale, extending it back out. Exhale, crunching it in, pulling our belly button in towards our spine. Inhale to extend, really balancing out here. Exhale, crunching in for our last time. Inhale to extend. And on your exhale, go ahead and return to our tabletop position. Great job. From here, we are going to take it to our first downward facing dog of the practice. So on our inhale, we bring our weight into the hands, curling our toes behind us. Exhale, pushing those glutes up toward the ceiling here, rocking our weight backward toward the heels, so the heels do not have to touch the mat behind you. Maybe taking this time to straighten one leg and then the other so that you can stretch out those calves, walking out your downward facing dog. Aiming for a nice inverted V shape here, so making sure that our ears are framed by our arms, that we do feel a stretch in those legs here, but making sure that we're not locking out those knees or anything. Taking it to our first vinyasa of the practice. I'll go through a couple different variations here. Starting today, we inhale, rocking forward, coming into a low plank variation, so dropping our knees down, but still keeping those abdominals nice and engaged with a straight line from the crown of the head through the knees here. Exhale, tucking those elbows in towards our sides. We slowly lower ourselves all the way down to the mat here. Inhale, lifting up just the chest here for a baby cobra, maybe wiggling those fingers. And on our exhale, we're curling those toes, lifting the glutes up toward the ceiling here for a downward facing dog. That entire cycle from downward facing dog to downward facing dog is called a vinyasa. I will offer a couple of other modifications as today's class progresses, but first, on our inhale, we're going to go ahead and walk our feet up toward the top of the mat here. Once we're at the top, we're exhaling, taking a forward fold, so bending as much as we need to through those knees so that we can either reach palms to the mat here or that we can wrap those hands around the ankles. Keeping the shoulders rolled back, but thinking about reaching the chest down toward the thighs. On an inhale, lifting up halfway for a halfway lift, we bring our hands to either the shins or the tops of the thighs, rolling our shoulders back away from the ears, pulling shoulder blades together, making a nice flat back. Exhale, bending through those knees, forward fold. Inhale one more time, halfway lift, nice flat back, pulling those shoulder blades together at the top. Exhale, bending through those knees, forward fold. Inhale, the arms come wide, reverse swan dive, reaching up toward the ceiling here, gazes up between those palms. And exhale, the arms come wide, once again, swan dive forward for a forward fold at the bottom, maybe walking this out a little bit, like we did with our downward dogs. Go ahead and inhale one last time, halfway lift, nice flat back. And on our exhale, we bring the hands flat to the mat, stepping ourselves back to a downward facing dog. Taking a vinyasa here if you would like to. All of these are optional, so don't feel like you have to take them. But this time I'm going to take a different variation. So on an inhale, I'm coming into a high plank variation. A nice straight line from the crown of the head through the heels of the feet this time. Really stabilizing through those arms, making sure that we're not locking out the elbows. On our exhale, we pull those elbows in towards our sides and slowly lower ourselves down, transferring that weight forward so that our elbows aren't sinking back. The chest reaches the mat first, followed by the stomach. Go ahead and uncurl those toes. Inhaling, lifting up all the way this time for a high cobra, keeping a slight bend in those elbows. Once again, not locking them out. And on our exhale, pushing through those hands, curling those toes once again, we sink ourselves back to a downward facing dog. Feel free to take a child's pose at any point that we are in downward facing dog, but I am going to continue on from here. So on our inhale, we're floating up that left leg for a three-legged dog, keeping those hips nice and square to the mat here. On our exhale, we're rocking that weight forward and bringing that left knee toward the left elbow, so the same side, crunching with that oblique muscle. Inhale, lifting yourself back up to our three-legged dog. This time on our exhale, we're crunching across, so twisting with our bodies, bringing that left knee toward the right elbow. Inhale, lifting it back up. Exhale, crunching straight down the middle, this time bringing the knee toward the nose, hovering here. Inhale, lifting back up, three-legged dog, you've got this. Exhale, go ahead and rock that weight forward nice and slowly. We're setting that left foot down in between the hands here, great job. Go ahead and inhale it out here, and on our exhale, our arms are coming up to frame the ears here for a high crescent lunge. So keeping those hips nice and squared off to the front of the room. Making sure that one hip is not going farther forward than the other. Making sure that we can see our toe past, or that we can still see our toe and that our knee is not going past it in the front. Keeping a generous bend here, maybe stopping the foot forward or backward if that's comfortable for you. So from here, optionally, you can use some sort of weight. These are weighted. You're welcome to use dumbbells if you have them. Or you can just go without weight. You'll see what we're doing in just a second here. So inhaling, we're keeping those arms up here. Exhale, they're coming wide and around our back, squeezing like there's a big beach ball on our back. Airplane arms. Inhale, returning to our high crescent lunge. Exhale, leaning forward slightly as we do this, squeezing those back muscles here. Inhale, rising up one last time. Exhale, squeezing around the back, airplane arms. Inhale, go ahead and return to that high crescent lunge. Exhaling it out here for just a second. I'm going to go ahead and switch sides. So our next little mini flow here. Inhale, exhale. Yes, go ahead and inhale here. Exhaling it out. Go ahead and inhale, leaning forward. So holding the weights, holding the arms just in front of us. And on our exhale, we're turning our back foot so that it's parallel to the back of the mat and pulling our arms open like a bow and arrow. Go ahead and inhale, turning that foot back toward our high crescent lunge. Exhale, turning the back foot so that it's parallel to the back of the mat, opening the arms. Inhale, reaching forward one last time. Exhale, pulling open. Inhale, holding here, warrior two. Maybe putting those weights down if you're still using them. Exhale, go ahead and rock that, cartwheel those arms forward to frame the front foot. Inhale here in our low lunge, and exhale, stepping ourselves back to a downward facing dog. Optional vinyasa here if you would like to take it. This time on my inhale, I am still taking a high plank variation. But instead on my exhale, I'm only going halfway down and holding here at 90 degrees before inhaling to lift up into a upward dog. Yes, that's what it is. So notice how my thighs are not touching the mat here. Shining that chest forward, keeping these shoulders nice and low. And on our exhale, we go ahead and curl those toes, sinking ourselves back to downward facing dog. Great job. So taking that flow on the other side whenever you are ready. On our inhale, we are floating up that right leg this time for a three-legged dog. Once again, keeping those hips nice and squared down to the mat here. On our exhale, we're rocking that weight forward and bringing the right knee toward the right elbow. So same side this time, crunching with that oblique. Inhale, lifting it back up to our three-legged dog. Exhale, go ahead and crunch across this time, twisting that right knee toward the left elbow. Inhale, lifting it back up. Exhale, go ahead and rock that weight forward, crunching knee toward nose. Inhale, lifting it back up one last time. Exhale, nice and slowly, we're placing that right foot down in between the hands. Great job. Go ahead and inhale, bringing those arms up to frame the ears. Exhale, high crescent lunge. So once again, keeping that generous bend in the front knee, but making sure that our right knee is not going past our toes in the front. Maybe you feel a stretch in that left hip flexor. Maybe the gaze is somewhere between the, like if there's like that little crease between the wall and the ceiling. I don't know if you're inside for this though. Okay, where are my weights? So same thing here. From before, we will be taking those airplane arms, so go ahead and inhale, extending those hands upwards. Exhale, bringing them around toward the back, squeezing that giant beach ball on our backs here for airplane arms. Inhale, go ahead and bring those arms back up. Exhale, squeezing airplane arms, maybe leaning slightly forward. Inhale to lift it back up to our high crescent lunge. Exhale, squeezing at the back once again. Inhale, lifting ourselves back up to our high crescent lunge. Exhale here. On your inhale, go ahead and bring those arms down so that the weights are in front of you or your hands are just straight out in front of you. That works too. Go ahead and inhale here. On our exhale, we're turning that back foot so that it's parallel to the back of the mat, opening ourselves up, pulling through those arms like a bow and arrow. Inhale, bringing it wide, back toward the front, turning that back foot. Exhale, opening up those arms like a bow and arrow, turning that back foot. Inhale, returning to the front. Exhale, opening up those arms. Last one, go ahead and inhale it to the front. Exhale, opening up those arms, bringing that gaze back toward the front hand, so the hand, it's my right hand in the front. Gaze is over that front middle finger here. Warrior two. Go ahead and inhale here. Exhale, bringing those hands down to frame the front foot, turning our back foot. Inhaling in our low lunge. Exhale, stepping it back to a downward facing dog. Optional vinyasa here if you would like to take it. Feel free to play around with the variations that I offer, just making sure that on our chaturangas, so that's the slow lower down, we keep those elbows tucked in. You should feel more engagement in the triceps than anywhere else. Following your own breath here, going as quickly or slowly as your body would like to. And then meeting me back in our downward facing dog whenever you are ready. On your next inhale, go ahead and walk those feet up toward the top of the mat here. And exhale at the top, bending through those knees, taking a forward fold. Maybe walking this out for a second. Inhale, lifting up halfway. Exhale, forward fold, bending through those knees. Inhale, the arms come wide, reverse swan dive, reaching up toward the ceiling here. Gaze comes up toward the ceiling, in between the palms. Exhale, the palms are going to come together over heart center, that's in front of our chest, mountain pose. Inhale, the arms come up once again, gaze is up between those palms. This time on our exhale, we're hinging at the hips, swan dive forward, and forward folding at the bottom. Inhale, halfway lift here, nice flat back. Exhale, go ahead and drop those hands, stepping our legs back for a downward facing dog. So we are going to transition into some chaturanga push-ups for some more arms that no one asked for. So for these, you don't have to use them, but I am using blocks to help with my form today to make sure that on these push-ups we're not sinking our elbows down. So I use the blocks because they're not completely stable on their own. And if I push on them, they will fall. Basically on chaturanga push-ups, if you remember our chaturangas from before, that's the slow lower down toward the mat before we lift ourselves up. For these, you want to keep those abdominals nice and engaged as you go, and you want to think about pulling those elbows in toward the sides and maybe bringing that weight forward so the chest comes forward before we push ourselves up. Feel free to take these down on your knees. I think I will be today. So we inhale to extend. Exhale to lower down to 90 degrees. Inhale, extending back up. Exhale, lowering down to 90 degrees. Inhale to push up. Exhale, lowering down, only a couple more. Inhale, extending it up. Exhale, down. Last one. Inhale, extending it up. I lied, one more. Exhale, down. Inhale to extend. Exhale, go ahead and sink yourselves back to downward facing dog. Great job. Optional vinyasa here if you want to take it. I'll go ahead and go through it. Completely up to you though. You can hang out in that downward dog if that feels better for you today. Whenever you're ready, just meeting me back in our down dog. On your inhale, go ahead and float up that left leg, coming into a three-legged dog. Exhale, we're rocking that weight forward, crunching that left knee toward the left elbow, and then setting down that left foot on the outside of the left hand. Go ahead and drop that back knee, uncurling the toe, and coming into lizard pose. So if you have, if you don't have blocks, you can use books, you can use boxes, but if you have blocks or some alternative to them, feel free to bring them down in front of you and sink down onto those elbows. If you can do it without, you can do it without, that's okay too. Or you don't have to use them at all. You can hang out up here with the hands flat on the mat. Go ahead and take one more inhale here. Now on your exhale, go ahead and heel toe that left foot toward the opposite side of the mat. So it'll go toward the right hand. We're sinking that shin down as close to parallel to the top of the mat as we can. If you have blocks or some alternative, you can stick them under that floating glute to help keep the hips nice and aligned with each other. If you don't have them and this is uncomfortable for you, feel free to pull that left heel in toward the torso here. So your knee will be a little bit more pointed. The shin won't be quite parallel to the top of the mat. That's completely okay. It's stretching all of the same places. And it's still a pigeon pose. Go ahead and take one more inhale here. Exhaling it out. On your next inhale, if your palms are not already flat on the mat, go ahead and take them there now. Exhale, we're curling that back toe, lifting up the back knee, and stepping ourselves back to our downward facing dog. Optional vinyasa here if you would like to take it. Remembering also on these to really squeeze that belly button in, blocks, toward the spine. Using those abdominals to help with your form on those. On your next inhale, go ahead and float up that right leg this time, three-legged dog. Exhale, crunching that right knee toward the right elbow here before setting down that right foot outside of the right hand for lizard pose. Go ahead and drop that back knee, uncurling the back toe. Feeling that right hip open up here. Maybe sinking down onto those elbows if that's comfortable for you to do so. On your next inhale, if you're not already there, go ahead and bring those palms flat to the mat. Exhale, we're heel toeing that right foot toward the left hand, so the opposite side of the mat. Setting down that shin as close to parallel to the top of the mat as we can. Once again, if you have that block or book or whatever you're using, feel free to shift it underneath of that right glute to help keep those hips nice and lined up. If you don't, and this isn't any way uncomfortable, feel free to pull that right heel inward toward the torso. Pigeon pose. And if you want to, you can also sink down onto the elbows. I didn't cue for it last time, but it's usually a variation that people take on their own, but we'll throw it in there just in case you thought you couldn't. Completely okay. Listening to your body, feeling that glute stretch out on the right side. On your next inhale, if you're not already there, you can go ahead and bring those palms flat to the mat, extending through the arms. Exhale, go ahead and curl that back toe. Lifting up the back knee, we step ourselves back to downward facing dog. Optional vinyasa here. This will be the last one for today's practice. Remembering everything I've said about form up to this point. I say as I do some not great form. Listening to your body here, meeting it where it's at. On your next inhale, go ahead and set down those shins, those knees on the mat. Uncurling the toes. Exhale, we're sinking the glutes backward toward the ankles here. Feeling a stretch in our shoulders, letting that forehead rest on the mat. We actively reach the fingertips toward the top of the mat. Child's pose. Returning our focus to the breath. Regaining control over it if we have let it wander. Remembering our lengthened breath from the beginning of today's class. Maybe checking back in with the body, noticing how it's feeling in this moment in comparison to when we started today. Finally, returning our thoughts to our intention that we set. On your next inhale, go ahead and walk those hands upward toward the knees. Coming into a seated position. On our exhales, we're just swinging those feet out from underneath of us so that we can bring the sits bones down to the mat. From here, we're going to take some boat pose variations. I'll offer 3, I think. So the first variation is to start on a boat pose. On an inhale, leaning ourselves back, aligning through the tailbone from the crown of the head through the tailbone. We lift up our feet off of the mat here for boat pose. So engaging through those abdominals here, maybe reaching the hands forward. Maybe bringing them down to the mat if that helps with engaging the right muscles. Squeezing that belly button inward toward the spine here. Inhaling here. On your exhale, go ahead and drop that left toe down to the mat. Inhale, lifting it back up. Exhale, likewise with the right toe, just bending it down. Inhale, lifting it back up. Exhale, dropping. And so on and so forth, following your own breath here. Keeping those abdominals nice and engaged, keeping that chest nice and lifted. Taking 2 more breaths here. And at the bottom of that second exhale, you can go ahead and release those legs down, maybe crossing your legs here. Coming into a seated position, I like to do some hip circles here to just kind of loosen up those legs again. Alrighty, next variation. Go ahead and inhale, returning to our boat pose. We're taking a sort of Russian twist variation here, so on our exhale, using our blocks or our boxes, or you don't have to use anything. You can just go ahead and twist back and forth, tapping the hand or the block down. Inhale to return to the mat. Wait, what? Exhale to return to the middle. Inhale to twist. Exhale to return. That feels wrong. Yeah, go ahead and exhale to twist. Inhale to return to the middle. That's better. Exhale. Inhale, following your own breath here, sorry. Go ahead and take 2 more breaths wherever you are at. Ooh, I'm struggling with this today. Inhaling one last time wherever you are. Go ahead and exhale, dropping those legs down, coming out of our boat pose. We do have 1 more variation that I will offer you, and then I promise we'll do like 1 more stretch, and then we'll have a nice Savasana, and it'll be great. Okay, whenever you are ready on an inhale, we're returning to that boat pose from before. So maybe those arms or those fingers are reaching toward the toes once again. On your next inhale, go ahead and drop yourself down, hovering the legs and the back just above the mat here for canoe. Exhale, lifting yourself back up to boat. Inhale to drop almost all the way down, hovering those shoulder blades above the mat here for canoe. Exhale, returning to boat. We'll do 2 more. Go ahead and inhale to canoe. Stick with me, guys. You got this. Exhale for boat. Last one. Go ahead and inhale. Dropping yourself down, hovering just above the mat here. I am shaking. Exhale for boat pose. Inhale here. Exhale, go ahead and drop those legs. Great job. Amazing stuff. Your body can do some amazing things. Beautiful. From here, go ahead and inhale, bringing those feet flat to the mat, keeping a slight bend in those knees. Maybe shifting the glutes forward a little bit before we exhale, setting ourselves down on the mat. Laying it back, remembering how this felt when we started today. Go ahead and inhale, pulling those knees in toward the chest. If you have any other poses that you would normally take during your practice, feel free to take those now. Otherwise, you can go ahead and join me on an inhale, taking a full body stretch, reaching the hands overhead, the legs long, actively reaching the toes and the fingers in opposite directions here. Feeling the lower back lift off of the mat, perhaps. That chest open up. On your exhale, you can go ahead and relax, bringing the arms to the sides, corpse pose. Once again, if this is in any way uncomfortable, feel free to bring those feet flat to the floor here, keeping a slight bend in those knees, supporting that lower back. Whatever you prefer. Whenever you're ready, you can just go ahead and close those eyes. Bringing your attention inward, scanning over the body here. Feeling your body grow heavier on the mat today, maybe adjusting just a little bit as you do so. As gravity takes over, parts of our body grow heavier. We may need to space ourselves back out. That's completely okay. Noticing how you are naturally breathing in this moment, maybe taking a hand to the stomach. Feeling it rise with your inhales and sink down with your exhales. You can also take the other hand to the chest if you would like, so that you can feel your own heartbeat as it slowly comes down to its natural pace. Finally, remembering that intention that we set at the beginning of today's class, using that and the breath and the body on the mat to keep ourselves focused to this present moment. I release you to our final resting pose, our final meditation, Savasana. Beginning to deepen the breath, bringing the mind back down to the mat from wherever it may have wandered. Slowly bringing awareness back into the body by making small movements here, maybe wiggling the fingers and the toes, doing some ankle or wrist circles. On your next inhale, you can go ahead and take another full body stretch, reaching those arms overhead, extending the body long here. And on your next exhale, you can go ahead and roll onto your favorite side, coming into a fetal position, using that top arm as a pillow, and maybe fluttering the eyes open here. Taking a moment here to remember that you are loved, you are worthy, and you are exactly where you are supposed to be, even if it doesn't feel like it in this moment. The universe works in mysterious ways, but I promise that all that is meant to be will happen. From here, whenever you're ready, you can just go ahead and push yourself up, coming into a comfortable seated position on the mat. We'll go ahead and take one final breath together. So on an inhale, the arms come upwards, gazes up in between the palms. Exhale, the palms come together over our heads for kind thoughts, over our mouths for kind words, and over heart center for kind intentions towards ourselves and others. Namaste means the light and love in me honors and reflects the light and love in you. So feel free to say it back to me as I say to you, Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Meaghan, and this has been Power Yoga. I hope that you have a great rest of your day.